podcast coming to you live from Studio A of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, the full CHGO White Sox crew. We got Vinnie Duber. He's our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber. The man in the middle is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him at Hecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. It's a passionate hello.
Yeah. We're in the offseason. I'm happy as hell.
Okay, so you're the people, like, everyone keeps asking me now that the season's over. It's like, oh, you're probably relieved the season's over. Like Jim, our sales guy, was doing it to me, and he was like, after that season, you're probably, thankful that it's the off season. It's like, no, there's no baseball. Like, I don't get to watch.
I mean, you weren't playing.
But it's like, what is that? No, but it's like.
Like, it's not like you get to go home and put your feet up. We're still doing 5 shows a week here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like.
We keep rolling.
And that gave us content.
That it did.
Like, we are just going to be speculating now for 4 months. And last year when we speculated, I said, I speculated that I did not want Andrew Benintendi.
Drink.
And I got him.
You did.
Drink.
Man. Yeah. So
Stop writing it on the wall this year. Don't say who you don't want. Tell me who you do want. Because
I told you who I wanted.
I understand. I mean, when you paint the devil on the wall, he appears. All and right. You painted the devil on the wall.
Leary Garcia.
God damn it.
I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. And we are being produced by Kevin Wells today.
What's up, guys?
Hello, Kevin.
What's happening?
And shout out to the chat. We got AJ and Melissa, 2 diehards in the chat. Make sure you're hitting the thumbs up button and subscribing. We will be taking diehard questions. The main event of the show is Vinnie Duber's one-on-one interview with White Sox manager Pedro Grifol. It's about 35 minutes long. I think it's very insightful. I think it's a lot less produced than the post-game show pressers. It's Pedro with his tie off. You know what I'm saying? He's a little bit more relaxed, and I think you get a little bit more insight to Pedro, the person who's managing, rather than just Pedro the manager. I don't know.
A little less guarded. Did he tell you? Did he tell you, Vinny, his favorite group again? Did he say his favorite Fleetwood Mac song?
He did not. We didn't get into that. There's plenty of time to get into that, of course. As he'll be back next season. But
I guarantee.
No, I think you're right, Sean. And I think when it comes to the way fans might hear it and react to it, it's there's a difference between answering a question behind a podium with a camera light in your face versus sitting down and talking. And not only for him, but I think for the people hearing it too. Like, you might be expecting a certain answer or a certain type of answer because I, the reporter, am asking this person that during a post-game press conference. You get it and you don't like it, kind of thing. Whereas here, maybe you kind of get a vibe like, oh, I asked Pedro what was going on with this during the year, and he very casually told me. Maybe that's the way I wanted to hear it, and that makes me understand it a little bit more. I'm not saying you're going to end up agreeing, but it might be just it's not only answered in a different way, I think it might be heard in a different way too.
Well, and this isn't an excuse, but also just try to imagine to be Pedro, and before every game, you have 8 people staring at you with little phones. And then after the game, after 101 losses, they have 8 people staring at you with little phones and asking you, why'd you lose another game? And you're just like, I don't know. He basically touches on that. So it's insightful, I think, to, how difficult a first-year manager's job can be when it goes all wrong.
Yeah.
So excited for you guys to listen to that. But we do have diehard questions. Vinny asked, hey, I got the interview. We're going to have time to react. Where are you putting the diehard questions? And I was like, that's a great point. I don't understand how to plan shows according to time. And I would have had you guys here for 2 hours. But we're going to use one diehard question, and all the other ones are going to be used tomorrow. And let's go to Stephen Gautrett and other Sean, who said, what teams are y'all rooting for this postseason? Are we pulling for Jake Burger's Marlins? 12 teams now in the postseason. And obviously maybe not rooting for in your case, Vinny. I know you are a journalist. The BBWAA might get mad at you. But, who would you like to see win? I mean, is there a good story you see? Is Jake Burger's Marlins the best story out there?
I'll tell you what, just having interacted with and slightly knowing Jake Burger, boy, it looks like he's having a lot of fun playing for the Marlins. And that's not a comment on the White Sox. It's a comment on the Marlins and how things, when they do go right, boy, can they be fun? You know what I mean? And that's a question that I asked Pedro in the interview is about fun and about, remember when the White Sox were having all that fun kind of thing? You were seeing that from those Marlins. There was the clip that went around social media yesterday of Berger just being interviewed on TV and just every single teammate coming by and pouring the beer on his head. And I think it was Luis Arraez who's just yelling at him, hamburguesa, hamburguesa, which was funny. Yeah, I mean, they look like a blast. But boy, there are just, there's so many different ways you can look at that and answer that question, right? Do you want to see the absolute best of the best? Boy, the Atlanta Braves and the Los Angeles Dodgers are going to give you that. We can only hope that is going to be the NLCS because, talk about a clash of the Titans there. But all over the place, there are little stories, and whether you like certain players, whether you like what you've seen from teams that haven't been there in a while, like the Texas Rangers. Maybe you're a big, fan of Jose Abreu, who's playing with the Houston Astros right now, or maybe you like the kind of rebuild-esque stories that the Orioles have been or that the Rays have been. It's all over the place. I think you can find fun anywhere. If you're looking for that local angle, Milwaukee's just right up the road. So, that technically, they're a neighbor. They're a neighbor. You'll want to see your neighbor succeed.
You went to school up there, Kevin. You should enjoy your Milwaukee Brewer, even though you're a Cub fan.
No, I'm good.
Put the pom-poms up.
They're going to be without Brandon Woodruff. Did you see that? He got a shoulder injury.
Ooh.
So that's massive
That's
news. Huge loss for them.
It is.
That's tough.
What were they going to do when, the Dodgers or maybe the Braves or any other team actually had, real pitchers, though? Because their lineup sucks.
It's not great. They got Garrett Mitchell back. Got a lot of young
Wow,
guys
did
swinging.
they? They got Garrett Mitchell back, guys. Watch out for the Brewers.
Oh boy! But hey, but at the same
I don't know who that
time,
person is.
Exactly.
you talk about who do you want to root for as a fan? Fans love underdogs, and if you see the Brewers go up against the Braves, you're going to be like, boy, wouldn't it be nice to see the mighty Braves toppled by this scrappy bunch of Midwesterners?
And as Vinny said, you can go up to the games. I love Miller Park or whatever they call it now. You can just go and see some playoff baseball because this city has deprived you of that thing. But I would go with the Orioles because I think we were talking last year when they came into town, just like this team is nice and fun. This is a young, fun, hip team. And they had lost, 110 games last year or a bunch of games? And now they're
not last year.
Last year they just missed the
2021 they
playoffs.
were.
Oh, just missed the play. 2021, they lost 110 games, came into guaranteed rate. I was like, that team is not a team that of 100 losses. They killed the White Sox that weekend, and we've seen this year they've taken it to them, getting John Means back. I mean, all the players that they have on the team, young, hip, happening. And then number 2, it is KPW's Blue Jays, mostly because KPW, but secondly because they play the Twins. And we know the Twins in the playoffs, come on now.
I mean, they're going to lose.
Quick exit.
They're going to
going to lose.
exit.
Absolutely. And Kevin, I'm sorry. I was a little obtuse about Garrett Mitchell. Former first rounder.
He's a good player. Will be a good player.
Yeah.
They also have Josh Donaldson that they picked up.
Ugh.
There you go. That's what I wanted to hear.
And there's your reason to not root for
I'm
the Brewers.
readjusting that, putting them at the bottom
Yeah,
now.
honestly. All right, that's fair. I mean, even Rowdy Tellez was on foul territory, and they're like, oh, so you guys got Josh Donaldson. And he played with him in Toronto. He's like, yeah. And he was like, oh, what was your first interaction? And he was like, yeah, he called me fat. And he was like, I knew the joke that he was going to say. And it's like, wow, this guy seems like a great uplifting presence in the locker room.
We heard it from Liam Hendricks.
Right, yeah. Everyone loves Josh Donaldson.
I mean, even
If you're on the wrong side of Liam Hendricks, that's probably not a good sign.
really bad. I mean, even in the whole Tim Anderson thing, his own teammates, like Aaron Judge, like, nah, that was bad. What he did was bad. So you know the man's a terrible person. As you said, if Liam Hendricks doesn't like you, you're a terrible person.
Absolutely. Shout out
And
Liam
not
Hendricks.
a good baseball person anymore either.
No, and that's why he got cut by the Yankees, and that's why the Yankees didn't make it to the playoffs, and that's a fun thing. We can look at all 12 of these teams, and we can see no Yankees, so that's always something to celebrate, folks. I kind of went through a power ranking. I did a little bit too much here, so I went 1 through 12. Easy number 1 here, Diamondbacks. I have a bet on them, so I win money if the Diamondbacks.
They're fun too.
Win the World
Boy,
Series.
they run and run and run and run. They play fast. They're fun to watch.
And do you know who gets a World Series ring? If the Diamondbacks.
Sebi.
So let's go. Sebi the Crab. Number 2.
And they actually have a decent job because they have 2 frontline starters at the top of their rotation.
Who?
Zach Gallen.
And Merrill Kelly.
Yeah, Merrill Kelly.
Oh, I mean, Brandon Pfaadt is starting game 1.
That's probably because of
That's your guy.
Yeah, he sucks. He's not good.
He doesn't suck.
He's terrible. He did it
What's
to
wrong
the
with
White
you?
Sox. He has like almost 7 ERA.
Okay? That's the one. That's what makes pitchers good. If they have a good ERA or not, and not if they're young, maybe starting off early. Like I mean, the kid's finding his feet.
Yes.
The
Currently,
Diamondbacks, who have all those players, are trusting him to start game one. I
Currently-
think that's pretty
Yeah,
significant.
currently not good. Brandon Pfaadt.
Okay, all right.
He did it versus the White Sox. Who cares?
I think that he can do it against a lot of teams. I believe in you, Brandon Pfaadt. All right. So number 1, Diamondbacks. I have a bet on them. 2, I think the Braves would be fantastic. If I didn't have money on the Diamondbacks, I would have the Braves, number 1. I don't know if that's evil. I don't know if that's gross of me, but I want the White Sox to hit as many home runs as the Braves. And that's what I've been trying to say since I started doing this stuff like 2 years ago, that you should sign Kyle Schwarber. He'll hit 45 home runs plus in this lineup. Get away from Andrew Benintendi. Go sign somebody like Joey Gallo or Conforto who will hit home runs. You know,
I'm
Rick
sorry,
Hahn
I missed it. Drink. Sorry.
Rick Hahn said ball go far, team go far, and they didn't do that. So I would love to see a team that just did it, just hits home runs all the damn time, win the World Series. 3, Phillies, because PHLY, I think that makes sense. Marlins, good vibes. Kim Ng, Jake Berger, Avi Garcia. A lot of reasons to like the Marlins. I mean, they're a fun team. 5, you guys mentioned the Orioles, young, fun team. Rangers, the Rangers spent $556 million on Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, and John Gray. Is that what you guys want?
Golly.
You guys want good players on your team?
Wait a second. So you have the Rangers ranked as high as you do for the sole reason that you want to be proven correct that in order to win, you need to spend all the money in the world.
Well, I mean, I don't even know if you know this term. It's copy pasta. It's something that
sounds
goes,
like something from the internet.
Yeah, it's something that goes around when, the Rangers succeeded by getting good players.
Barely.
They in the playoffs?
Barely.
They spend more money than the Mariners?
Where the Mets? Where are the Mets these days?
That's true.
Yeah. Again, I don't care. It's
I
not
would
my
never-
money. Spend as much of it as you want. But
Right.
the point being that like the idea that you have to just all it takes is a dump truck of money and then you win the World Series. Like that's no fun, right?
I don't know if it's no fun, but like
I wish we would try
it's
it.
it's
That'd
a
be
pretty
great.
yeah. I mean,
The White Sox should try that.
if you went out and spent, $175 million on Marcus Semien, would that solve some problems in the White Sox lineup?
Here's what I will say. Again, do whatever you want them to do whatever you want. That's fine. It's not my money. The point being that you would be just as mad today if the White Sox had the season the Mets just had as you would.
That's not true because they
as
tried.
they had. No.
put more
okay.
effort.
They made the playoffs and everybody was furious when they lost to the Astros in the playoffs.
I'll say my team, my secondary team. The Padres spent a bunch of money.
Yeah.
I'm actually not that disappointed in the Padres because the season was unlucky. The general manager and the manager put them in a position to win, and the performance wasn't there. I'm actually fine with it.
What was Pedro saying? Talent wins games, right? I think, or Gene Watson said that. Like, again, talent wins games. How you acquire proven veteran talent is by paying them money.
You just said you're happy to not see the Yankees in the playoffs. Why don't you like the Yankees?
Because you look at the White Sox history from 1901 to now, the only team that has absolutely smashed and killed the White Sox every single time is the Yankees.
He's mad about all those 1910 losses.
Do you know what the Yankees have? 27 World Series.
People don't like the
White
Yankees
Sox
because they won all the time, and the reason they did it was they spent a ton of money. It makes you a bad guy.
So but they won. They spent money and won. That's kind of what I want them to do.
You don't want to be a bad guy. You don't want to be a bad guy. You want them to win.
I do. I just said the team that I want to win is the bad guys. The team that's spending money.
You don't want them to win. You don't want them to spend money. You want them to win. What if they win by not spending money? You're going to be mad that they didn't spend money?
I'd be shocked.
You're rooting for payment?
Do you think that they're going to win if they don't spend money?
Like, this is the thing. Like where you have the Rays in that ranking. Like that's the team that can bust through and win the World Series without spending a bunch of money.
The Orioles haven't spent a ton of money.
They haven't, but
so
they could.
I have them. So the Marlins, I have 4. They haven't spent a ton of money. The Orioles are 5 again. They haven't spent a ton of money. Rangers 6. I'm just using the copy pasta, but hey, look at that conversation that sparked. 7, I have the Rays, and they're a team that never won the World Series. So I'd be thrilled to see the Rays win it, but there's no one you could really attach to, and the Franco situation's just.
I'm just saying,
horrible.
I get when, and not just you. Everybody says this. A ton of fans say it, so it's fine. I would just. I do think it's an interesting conversation, which is why I'm keeping it going. It reminds me of the whole Bears moving to Arlington Heights thing, right? Where the Bears somehow like convinced people that they want that the whole point is that the Bears should make more money. Like, oh yeah, go Bears, make more money, hooray! Like, why do you care? Why do you care how much money your team is making and how much it's spending? You should care about how many games they're winning, and that's it. And so my point being that if you convince yourself that those two things are necessary to happen to each other, then all of a sudden you're just rooting for money to be spent, and why is that fun? You know,
right? But I guess that's the position that Jerry Reinsdorf has put Sox fans in for the past 40
sure.
years. Because
this is not just a vacuum, sure. Right.
But how do you acquire talent? Again, you acquire it, you go out and spend the money, and we know that X amount of WAR costs X amount of money. The White Sox, and we'll get to this later with the Andrew Benintendi talk, basically went out and signed 2.5 players. They signed Clevenger, and he gave them kind of a full season starting. They signed Andrew Benintendi, who was often injured and often a game-time decision to play for the team, as you'll find out, and Hanser Alberto. So, again, like, they didn't go out and acquire talent.
And Elvis Andrus.
And I guess Elvis Andrus, but
yeah.
that's a reacquiring. But
Alberto was a minor league deal.
Okay,
I give it to Elvis over Alberto.
Then we won't count it. But this is from Sox Machine, and I didn't. We had the discussion. Did the White Sox fail Luis Robert Jr. this year? And later on, and to add to this context, Jim and Josh put this out. With Luis Robert Jr., the White Sox had 3.5 F/WAR, 29th in the MLB. Without Luis Robert Jr., you take away his contributions, negative 1.5 F/WAR as a team. So they did not acquire enough talent. They did not spend enough money on talented players. They went out and they thought, if we home grow some talent, we can, kind of take a little bit of a cheaper route to a World Series, but they did not spend efficiently enough, and they did not spend enough. If Machado was on this team, if Wheeler was on this team, we might be seeing a better team and a better product, but they're just not.
Sure. I don't want anybody, though, to think that that's the main reason that this didn't work.
Yeah.
The main reason it didn't work is because all the guys that they already had were hurt all the time.
Right. Absolutely. But if they had more talent,
they'd be better.
They'd be better.
But I still think, I guess what I was saying was I still think people would not be happy with the result, and nor should they be, right? I mean, again, I'll bring up the Mets, right? Like, the Mets did exactly what every fan base wants their team to do every winter, right? They went out and spent $500 million or whatever it was on a team, right? And it didn't work at all. And all the Mets fans are mad. All the White Sox fans are mad too. You're both at the same spot, but just, you know what I mean? And so I think it goes to show that there's no right way to do it. Otherwise, one team would spend $500 million every year and win the World Series every single year.
I guess the Mets fans, though, are more frustrated, and the White Sox fans are ready to riot.
But yeah, and even if you're a Mets fan, you trust your owner, because he came up and he's like, this is unacceptable. Fired who we need to fire. Like, Buck is not a guy anymore. Hired David Stearns and said, hey, man, here's your thing. Go ahead and do your thing, what you did with the Brewers, but better here. And as a Met fan, if you're doing the same show here in New York, I'm guaranteeing Mets fans like, yeah, the result wasn't good, but they addressed what we were wondering what was going to happen with the front office, and now it looks like we're going forward. For every White Sox fan, even if you're the most optimistic Chris Getz fan, you don't know what's going to happen.
You're talking about two different things. You're talking about next year now.
No, but
I'm
even
talking about the fact that they're both sitting at home right now after having horribly disappointing performances.
Right, but again, like, you put yourself in NY. I don't want to name these
NWYK.
Okay, there you go. NWYK. You're sitting at WNYK or whatever.
No, that's just that's just a radio
NWYK.
station. Yeah.
Mercy. Anyways, like, if you're the Mets and you're filling out 3 spots in the rotation, and compared to the White Sox, like, you can trust your owner that there will not be a dime skipped to fill out each and every one of those spots.
And tell me that you can guarantee me that it's going to win them a championship.
I can't, but I can guarantee you that they'll have more wins than the White Sox in 2024.
Well, if they spend $1 million or $1 billion on every player,
I'll say it right now. In 2024, the Mets will have more wins than the White Sox. I mean, I guess that's not too big of a leap, because I guess they were like 4 games under 500.
Yeah, I mean,
but
right.
I just trust, especially with what the owner has done. And again, it's likely that they're going to have David Stearns. Showalter's out. I know rumors that Counsell might take a break from managing, but Stearns and Counsell have a relationship. If the Mets in 2024 have David Stearns, Craig Counsell, Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, and as much money as Steve Cohen has in the world, like, I think it's going to be a pretty successful offseason. I have so many questions.
That's exactly what just happened this last offseason.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad plan. It didn't work.
Yeah,
doesn't mean it can't work.
But I'm just saying it doesn't mean other plans can't work.
Yeah,
there's no one way to do it, and I think
true.
people treat it all the time like the one way to do it is to spend as much money as possible, and that guarantees you win the World Series. It doesn't.
I don't think it does, but if you look at some of the World Series winners, most of them have been in the top 10 of spending that season. So it does at least put you in the position to get in the playoffs, and I think fan bases would be much more happy. I want Jerry just to say, you know what, let's try the Steve Cohen thing. I don't have as much money, but let me go to $300 million this year and see what I can do. And if it doesn't work, what does he have to lose? It's just another year off his life. Whatever. He's 87 years old, but I say you don't do the thing where it didn't work, so we're not going to do it anymore. Like, it's kind of like Wile E. Coyote in the Roadrunner. He would be this close to
allchgo.com.
He would be this close to killing the damn Roadrunner, and then he would just change course all the way together. It was just operator error. It was just his error, and then he'd be like, "Oh, now I gotta go and find a different boulder or some shit and call the Acme company." No, just stay the course, do the same things you did, but don't do the dumb thing you did that messed up the whole thing to get in the Roadrunner.
Herb over here just stealing my whole piece from yesterday.
And I just think that the Mets should keep on doing that. Just put all the money. I mean, what's $16 billion? What can Steve Cohen do with that? You can't take it with you, brother. Might as well spend it on your 9 Mets and have them be a little bit better than they were last year. I guarantee with David Stearns in the fold, we'll be doing smart spending instead of just shopping for everything and see if it works out. And they'll be doing some development in the lower system, so you don't have to do the high spending thing all the time. As we said before, free agency and paying players to come to your team is the worst way to acquire talent. The White Sox need to be, with Gene Watson and Barfield and Bannister, getting these players who are on the fringes or some other team doesn't get them right, bring them here, and so they get up the level of the depth on the team, and so you're not spending money on free agents, which is what Jerry Reinsdorf definitely doesn't want to do, which leads to $200, $300, $400 million payrolls instead of the 150 or the lower ones like the Tampa Bay Rays every year consistently churn out talent and wins.
We'll make our final closing arguments, and then we'll finish out this, and then we'll take a break. But I think there's such a direct comparison to Mike Ilitch and the Detroit Tigers when he was in his later years, and you saw him start putting a more concerted effort into spending on the team, and they didn't really start having success until around 2005. In 2004, they spent $46 million. 2005, they spent $69 million. 2006, when they went to the World Series, $82 million. And then they started being consistently in the top 5 from 2008 to about 2017. It just shows that concerted effort, that direction from the owner went top down, and 2008 to 2017, we saw the Tigers really own this division, be a really successful franchise, and they didn't win their first American League Central title until 2011, and then they won 4 straight. So I just think that, again, there needs to be more talent, and if you're having major league talent on your team, it's just going to cause your payroll to go up no matter what. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, maybe there's different ways to grow that talent, but again, regardless, the White Sox need to spend more money, I think. Again, it wouldn't hurt.
They need to be a lot better, so yeah, there you go.
Yeah. All right. Final rankings, 7, Rays, a team that has never won. 8, the Dodgers, who I guess are the real Death Star. So, I mean, they spend the most money.
They do.
So I have them 8th, if that helps. 9 is the Blue Jays. Shout out to KPW. 10 is the Brewers because of Josh Donaldson. 11 is the Astros. I guess there's some redeeming qualities that Jose Abreu would get a ring, but nothing else. And then 12, I would root for the end of the world.
Not the Twins.
No. All right. Let's take a break. We'll let you know about our friends over at Ray CDJR. That's Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Are you in the market for a new vehicle? If you are, then we have some great news for you. Ray, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram in Fox Lake has just joined the CHGO team. At Ray CDJR, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories and find unforgettable savings. And right now, during Ram Power Days at Ray CDJR only in Fox Lake, you'll be able to secure 0% financing on 17% off new Ram models, but that's not all. Now through October 31st, explore their newly renovated showroom and take advantage of limited time 7-year anniversary savings. So if you're in the market for a new vehicle, then you have to check out the team at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram because they are the only team we recommend. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. Do you guys say route or route?
Route.
Route.
We're from Chicago, baby.
For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or raycdjr.com, serving the community since 1963. Also, who doesn't like saying Ram Power Days? Next up, game time. Again, no baseball. Sad face, you know?
I mean,
I guess you could drive to Milwaukee.
Yeah. You've got game time in Milwaukee.
And on the way, you can stop in Waukegan and visit our friends over at Circa.
Playoff tickets in Milwaukee right now for about $20-$30 for outfield seats.
That's not bad.
Upper
that's
deck.
really
yeah.
great.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that's what it should be.
All right, so if you want to get some baseball, don't worry. When you're buying tickets to your next big event, whether it's sports, music, comedy, and theater, Game Time is there for you with killer last-minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat. Maybe you're not used to American Family Park. I think that's
Oh, that's what it's called.
Miller
Okay.
Park. You can make sure that you're getting a great seat out there. And their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. And, two, the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guarantee.
You can sit in 120 for $63 in a playoff game in Milwaukee. Wow. Such a deal. Go up there and see some playoff baseball.
Why not? Shout out to Game Time. Use code CHGO. Michael Harkins is asking, what time is your exclusive interview with Pedro Grifol? Right now. So let's go to Vinnie and Pedro Grifol. About 35 minutes.
A lot of things happen.
Hold on.
Mercy. Yeah, no, I was going to introduce it a little bit more.
Okay.
Kevin's real ready. My bad. 35 minutes. Vinny sat down with Pedro Grifol. We'll react to it after. But Pedro, you started off asking Pedro, you had this vision when you started off managing this team. Where did it all go wrong? Here's 35 minutes with Vinny and Pedro.
A lot of things happen, and none of them are excuses. This is not an excuse-making session. None of it's excuses. Between me learning them learning me, injuries, heartbreaks, tough losses, tough streaks. We never really got a chance to even breathe. I mean, we played well the first series, came in here, got our butts kicked against San Francisco, and then we left on the road. I think it was to Pittsburgh and Minnesota. Played okay, but lost, I think, 4 out of 6. Came back again, I think, for Philly and Baltimore, I think it was 4 out of 6, too, that we lost. And then we went on that horrific road trip, that we lost. I think 7 in a row, 6 or 7 in a row. Ended up losing 10 in a row, and then never really bounced back. And I don't really have an answer to that. All I know is it's not our style of play that we envisioned, and it's definitely not the style of play that we will have moving forward. That's the only thing I can say about it. It's a very tough question that I don't have a complete answer to. Other than at times we did, at times we didn't. We got to be better, way better in that regard.
A thing that fans latch onto because, again, they're only seeing through the TV screen or from what they see in the stands. Sometimes they can see a lack of effort, a lack of want, for lack of a better term, from the players, especially after things went so poorly as you described in the first month. Did you see some of that? Do you see a lot of that? And were you either surprised, or what was the attempt at a solution moving forward on that front specifically?
A lot of that, I guess you can talk about it now, but you couldn't talk about it at that time because it would probably give competitive advantage. A lot of it was our guys were hurt, and we spoke prior to, whatever it is your percent that you're available at today, that's what I want you to give me. And those are things that I'm not going to talk on that. I'm not going to go on the record on that, after a game or prior to a game and just say so-and-so can't give me this because he's nicked up. And that happened a ton, more than what I've ever envisioned or ever been a part of. But these guys are talented, so I want them in the lineup, and I chose, and I you can go back, I said this over and over again, I choose the bat over the legs. I'm not expecting so-and-so to run. I'm not expecting, because I choose the bat over the legs. If I didn't, then I wouldn't play him. So that happened a lot. Like I said, this is not an excuse. Injuries played a big part of that. And then there was some lapses too. There were some lapses of just lack of focus, and but I'm to blame for that because I'm the one that's got to fix that, and address that. So I've never hid from that. All I know is that we're fixing it. Was it a lot? More than what I would want, but not as much as the perception is. I think the perception has been like steadily increasing over the years, and it's magnified. And I don't compare ourselves to any other club or anything like that, but it's kind of the way of the game a little bit, but it's not the way we envision our game. So it's not, I don't know if I'm saying it right. I'm not comparing myself to other teams, but it's almost like, oh, this is how we're supposed to play. No, it's not how we're supposed to play. And that's something that I'm going to bear down on.
That leads into, I guess, kind of a two separate questions or a two-part question. On the field, we've seen a lot of the same things that we saw a year ago, that contributed to the disappointment a year ago and have contributed to the record this year. How does that get cleaned up on the field? And then in the clubhouse, in guys' heads, maybe, how do you guys clean that aspect of things up as well?
That's not that hard to do, I don't think. I mean, our guys, for the most part now, are really going home healthy and ready to go, for the most part. There's some guys that are still nicked up, but nobody's going home. As of right now, we have 2 games left. But as of right now, nobody's going home to really rehab anything. They're going home to prepare themselves for next year. The mindset's going to change. It's pretty simple. It's just our approach, the mindset, just, I hate talking about this because I've talked about it before, and it didn't transpire this year, so why would anybody believe it'll transpire for next year? But it's just time to go show it. Really, I'm not going to sit here and, there's nothing I can say. I mean, it didn't look good this year. It hasn't turned out good. We're fixing it.
Can those same guys make it look good?
Yeah, they can. Now, this, there's no guarantees to anything. I mean, if those same guys, I mean, a winner's a winner. And a lot of things happen in the winter. So, Chris and his staff will assess it, look at it, and put the best team on the field. So, but yeah, can those guys have the talent to do it? I think it's important for the health part of it to be on point. If it's not, then that's a tough ask. Health is really important with this club. Really, really important.
You've talked a number of times about you and Chris very much being on the same page, having the same goal. How much input are you going to have on the front office bringing the kind of players in here that you want to have in there, or is it just you guys are so on the same page that anything they do, you know that it will be the right way?
I'm 100%. Let me see how I put this. Like I trust his judgment and his vision 100%. I'm here for, for any communication that he wants to have. We communicate a ton, so far, but I trust him and the people that they've brought in. I mean, so we see things the same. So I don't need to be involved in, day to day or anything like that. I mean, he sees it. He knows what he wants. We're aligned. And he's going to do his thing. He's really good at what he does.
Is it a different vision than his predecessors, the guys who hired you?
Yes and no. I mean, talent is talent. I mean, everybody sees talent, and everybody knows talent wins. We'll see on that. There's a possibility. I mean, he's been down here in the clubhouse as a player. He knows how this thing breathes. So he's got his ideas, and he's got his, and he's a good leader. Like he and he's always been a good leader. So he knows what's needed down here. So yes and no. Not sure yet. That part, we don't know.
We heard a lot in August, particularly at the trade deadline, that those moves that were made were a positive in getting the clubhouse to where you guys want it to be. Was that necessary to make those changes to get it to where you wanted to be?
Look, we were I don't know how many games under we were at the deadline. 20 under?
20.
About 20 under. I mean, those moves were made to make us better, talent-wise. I mean, those guys, as everybody's seen, those guys were going to other clubs and they've done well and helped other clubs do what they wanted to do. And in return, we stocked up our system at the upper levels, and they've made us better going into 24 and 25. So, if it happens that way, that the environment's better, then so be it. But that's not why the moves were made. The moves were made because, look, we were 20 under. The chances were slim that we were going to be able to make a run at this thing, and you only get one opportunity. There's only one trade deadline. You only get one opportunity, and at that particular time, it was the right thing to do to acquire young talent at the upper levels that can help us move forward in 24 and 25.
What did you learn about managing this team that you're already like, okay, when we get going again in February and March, I know to do this instead of, or in addition to what was done before?
On a personal end, a lot of this stuff I can't talk about. I just can't. And I even if I could, I don't want to, because I don't want to continue to. It's about wins and losses. We got to go out there and prove it, all right? On a personal note, I've been in this game a long time, and I've gone through 162 games. But you don't really realize how long 162 games are until you sit in this chair. And at the beginning, it was almost like day to day, like we lose the end of the world, as opposed to, it's a long season. I don't think it affected the leadership, but I think it maybe affected me mentally. I took every single loss really hard. And, I should, but there's another game tomorrow, that front, I've gotten better at in the last couple months, for sure. And I need to be really cognizant of that next year, to where, okay, knowing where we're at, going out there, competing, right, and flushing things. And I need to do what I preach, flush it and move on. I need to do that too. And I take losses hard, and I don't. It's not caring less, because that's not what it is. It's understanding that there's a process to 162 games, and things can change quickly, for the better and for the worse. But they can definitely change for the better. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it a 7-21 start for a first-year manager. in a team that's supposed to be competing. It's tough. It was tough. It was tough. But I've learned how to deal with it. I've learned a lot. I've written down a lot. I've reflected a lot, and I will continue to do that. And I will be 100 times better next year for it. This is what I love to do. This is what I was born to do. And I'm grateful to have this opportunity to do it again. I mean, I am. And I'll be slightly different, and this will be different.
Maybe that's part of this answer to the next one here, but given the circumstances, obviously there's a lot of talking about what went wrong. What do you think? What are you proud of? What do you think you did well this year, you and your staff?
I think as a staff, myself and as a staff, we just stayed, we stayed calm. Like when I talk about taking losses hard, I'm talking about taking losses home, and you got to flush those things at home. It can't be 24/7 just because the mind doesn't work that way. You got to be able to turn it off a little bit and then come back and turn it back on. But in the midst of this storm, we've never wavered in our work. Everybody stayed calm. The staff did a really good job of just continuing to teach and work and just be relentless with that and prepare. That can be questioned because we didn't win, but the preparation was really good, and the work was really good. And these guys out there really worked. Very few times did I have to say, we need to pick it up. Very few times, as far as the game preparation and the pregame work. That part I'm really, really proud of. I'm really proud of some of the individuals out there that that developed as individuals. Luis Robert, Moncada, TA in the midst of his adversity and what he learned and how he got through it. Dylan Cease going through some adversity and finishing strong. I mean, there's some good things on the individual front, and my messaging is that all our successes are tied together. We need to turn this thing around and watch how everyone benefits from a winning ball club, and a winning environment.
One thing I wanted to make sure I asked you, because it's a question I get all the time, is while Oscar Colás was struggling, you routinely talked to us about what was bothering you about the way he was playing. Fans see or have the perception of similar mistakes being made by other players. Specifically, a lightning rod this year was Tim Anderson with the numbers that he's put up. We didn't hear the same kind of language from you in regards to him or some other players. They want to know, what is the difference?
Well, the difference is that Tim Anderson's been in the league for a long time, and he's done it over and over and over again. And he got ample time in the minor leagues to develop. Oscar hasn't. Oscar got here quickly, and he also had, spent 2 years in Japan. That, nobody knows how he was developed over there. Got here and moved up quickly. I think prior to this year, I think he had maybe 50 at-bats in AAA. Am I right?
It wasn't much.
It wasn't much. However you want to put it, no matter how good players are, they're either going to go through adversity in the minor leagues or they're going to go through adversity in the major leagues. You're going to go through it at some point. He went through it up here. He went through it early on. Things started to speed up for him. He needed to go back down and just reset, right? He did some of the things that he needed to do down there. Not 100%, but he did some of them. Let's give him another shot and see where he's at. At some point, you got to try it. You got to see where the development is. And then when you come up here and routinely make the same mistakes, it's just an indication to where, the talent's really good. He's a part of the future, but we need to continue to develop that talent down there to a point, in a place where it doesn't affect him mentally. This is a tough level when you're not having success, and it could work in many, many different directions, and it's not just physical. work on the mental side, a lot, to where now you're going to have to address the mind and the physical stuff. And we just didn't want it to get that far. Just go down there and continue to work and continue to develop. He's going to go to winter ball, and continue to develop there. But every case is different. Everybody's different. And Tim had success in the minor leagues, was there a while, had success in the big leagues, has been here a while having success. He's facing some adversity. You don't send him down. For everybody else, for that matter, here, it's similar. I mean, they've had success. Robert's had success here. Eloy's success here. Moncada. All these guys have had success here. So it's not comparable. This kid just needs to continue to develop in an environment where it's not everybody on top of you every single day, just detailing everything you do right and everything you do wrong. Just not the time.
And also, too, as I'm sure you would not only agree but confirm, just because you're not saying stuff to us doesn't mean that you're not saying stuff to players, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's, with me, that is going to be 100% the case. I'm not the type of manager that needs approval from the media or to show the media or to show anyone that I am doing the things I need to do to try to right this ship. I'm not that type. I don't need that. I'll wear it, and that's it. I'm never going to share my meetings with media or anyone, the meetings that I have with the club or with individuals. I'm never going to do that. That's not who I am. So many times I've had friends or people hint and people tell me this year, like, hey, why don't you, meet with the team? Why don't you, I don't know. I might be doing that. I might not. I don't, but it's happening. I mean, it's just not something that I'm going to share. That's just not how I'm wired. I believe in what happens in here stays in here, and if it means that people are talking negative about it, it's fine. I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable in my own skin knowing that, I'm doing what I have to do to individually and as a team to try to right this ship.
You have a catching background, obviously. What have you seen from Corey Lee this year that would indicate that he's capable of having that number one catching job for an entire season, perhaps?
He's got every characteristic to be a really good major league catcher. He's smart. He calls a good game. He leads. He's curious about his pitchers, about their personalities, about what makes them tick, what they can and can't do. He's curious about it, and that's part of being a good catcher. You got to be really curious on the guys that you're catching. And when you have that type of curiosity, you develop great relationships. And when you develop relationships, they know that you care and they can trust you. And it just kind of frees them up to just pitch. And that's the catcher's job, and he has all those characteristics, all of them. Now, he has ways to go, but I was just happy and thrilled that he was able to get these last 5 weeks or whatever it is he's been here under his belt, so that we can learn from this and be ready to go in the spring. And he's got to compete for a job. I mean, I'm not going to just hand it to him. He's got to compete. But he's certainly got every characteristic of becoming an everyday guy.
Heard in the past that pitchers are very receptive to every single bit of information and coaching they get. A new pitch, move your arm this way.
Sure.
And we've heard in that same explanation in the past from different people. Hitters are not that way. They rely on what they know because it got them to this point. Have you found that these guys, these hitters, have been receptive to what you and your coaches have been trying to say?
It took a little bit, just because you have to develop relationships. And when guys have had success, or some form of success, it's hard to make changes, and it's hard to just develop relationships, because it's about trust. And the one thing that every single player wants to do is just hit and be great at hitting. There's still a ways to go on that end, but there has been some strides made on the relational part, on how we want our offense to roll, really. But there's not really much that we can hang our hat on and say, okay, we're headed in the right direction, because we just haven't performed as a group enough to say that. But as individuals, there's been some positives. Obviously Robert had a great year, and he's just now tapping into his ability, and he knows that the one thing he's worked on this year that maybe he hasn't that much in the past was his plate discipline and zone discipline, and he knows that that's what's going to make him either great or just an average or above average player. Moncada, after the injuries, have shown now what he can and what he can be again. He's done it before. I think the injuries really affected him, especially when you have a back injury. It's tough to recover from it, and then it's tough to even get back to feeling like normal again. And he has for the past, 42 games or so. Eloy's been off and on, but he's shown ability to be able to just be an aircraft carrier. Like he can carry a team. TA, I really believe his knee injury affected him, and then once he was facing adversity, not hitting, it affected him mentally too. Because like, why isn't this happening? And then it becomes mechanical, and then it was a tough year on the injury front for us. Vaughn is just tapping into his potential. I mean, he's young. I think he's gonna cap out at a level where we're all gonna be really happy with him. So, as a group, we haven't really clicked together, but there's a nice core here that can get some things done. We just got to continue to work on it. We got to work. I mean, we got to continue to work. They got to continue to buy in, and we got to continue to get creative. We got to, it's just, it has to happen.
You had a previous relationship with Andrew Benintendi, glowing review about him, obviously, from when you were with him in Kansas City, and you've told us throughout this whole season how we haven't seen the real guy. He has had, in recent history, because he's gone to a few different ballparks that were his home ballpark, talking about hitting to the ballpark and doing that kind of thing. Ballpark independent, what is Andrew Benintendi at his best? We're
going to see him next year at his best. He had that hand injury last year where he was rehabbing all offseason, couldn't get in the gym to do what he normally does. He's talking about that already, about a big part of this offseason is getting that strength back that he normally comes into spring training with. That's a big part to his game. The bat-to-ball skills are elite, controls the strike zone. It's all a matter of, just now building himself back to and having the strength that he's had in years past, where he comes in and, he drives balls because he was able to get after it in the offseason. This was a tough year for him in the offseason when he had that hammock and he had another injury. It was a tough year. And I can't tell you how many times it was a 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock decision on whether he could play or not. I mean, it happened a lot to where, hey, I send that lineup out the night before, and it would be like, I don't know if he can play. And I'm like, well, I'm going to send it out with him on it. And if he can't, he can't. And if he can, he'll stay on it. And he goes, I got to send something out. I don't want to not put him on there and then have to take somebody out and add him. So I can't tell you how many times, that happened because of his hand. He was hobbling to the All-Star break. you know, and the All-Star break really helped him, you know. So knowing what I know, he's had a good year. Knowing what I know, you know, and I say that comfortably, and I say that because he deserves for me to say that, because he hasn't complained about it one time and hasn't talked about it one time. He's just playing. I'm playing, and I'm gonna play with pain. No problem. I'm playing, you know. And even when he wasn't playing, it'd be like, hey, if you need me, I'm in there. You know, if you need me, I can play defense. A few times it was like I can play defense and I can run, but I can't hit. I mean, he's a tough kid. He's a really tough kid. We haven't even come close to seeing the best of Benintendi yet. Not even close. We'll see it.
Whether it's specifically about him or not, a thing that gets asked again by fans constantly is, would that have been a reason to put him on the IL? You know, or player X, you know, if they're dealing with an injury like that?
If you put him on the IL, and after that period, it would be fixed.
Sure.
But if you're going to put him on the IL, and then when he comes back, it's going to be close to the same, then play through it. You know, and those are decisions that the players make. Even
if it's clearly hampering their ability to produce the way they want to, and you want them to.
Okay, but produce the way they've produced in the past, but you got to weigh in, does it help us right now too? You know, that production that he's been giving us has helped us. I mean, he's got, 36 doubles. You know, he's still running a 330, 335 on base. He still runs the bases extremely well. You can count on him in left field. He still produces at that level enough to, you know, to be in the lineup every day. You know, when players want to play and they say they can get through it, let them go. Especially guys like him that have been through it before and have played through some stuff before.
Plenty of mystery right now about what your rotation might look like next year with the, you know, having those trades being made at the trade deadline and all that stuff. You know, Kopech has obviously not had anywhere close to the year that anybody would want him to. What is your read on what Ethan is going to be able to do to, come opening day, deliver you guys a rotation that you can count on?
Ethan and Bannister.
Yeah.
Bannister was a great acquisition for us. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know that Bannister and Ethan together with Gene and Chris and Josh and, you know, and them up there acquiring players and doing what they know how to do, we're going to look better. We're going to be way better. As far as Kopech, you know, him and Bannister have a history back from Boston. That in itself, it's a positive, because again, it's all based on trust. You know, and when a pitcher has trust in a coach or in a couple of coaches, and, you know, things just get better quickly. The ability's there, the talent, the ability, he's performed at a high level in spurts. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what, you know, Bannister and Ethan and our pitching department can pull together here, because I know we'll be better.
You've talked a lot about the time for talk being done, about promising people what's going to come, and, you know, the answers on the field, right? Wins and losses. Yeah. But forget maybe the people who have been... Which is just
contradictory to what I'm saying, because we're talking about it, right?
True enough.
But, I mean, you get asked questions, you got to answer them, but it is about wins and losses on the field. That's what it's about.
That was going toward a place where, forget about maybe the people who have been watching this all year. If a potential free agent acquisition is sitting here, or a guy that you guys pick up in a trade, or even just the guys in that clubhouse right now, and they want to know, Skip, what kind of team are we going to be next year? What would you say to them?
You're going to enjoy yourself. We're going to play a good brand of baseball. You're going to enjoy yourself. We're going to have a good time winning baseball games. And to him, I'll explain it. to you, I'm done explaining it because it's about proving it. It's not about talking about it anymore. But to the player, I'll explain how. But nobody wants to hear how. They just want to see us do it. That's the reality of it. And that's what I would want as a fan. Stop talking to me about how you're going to do it. I just want you to do it.
How important is it to have a good time? We saw this team a few years ago be kind of the pinnacle of that fun on the field. Again, that you can see. Maybe you can't always see what's going on in guys' heads and stuff like that, but it was very apparent. And as the wins and losses have gone the way they have, it
just started off. We just never hit it a stride. We never hit a winning streak, a good winning streak. That was enough to get us back to so losing is no fun to anyone. And having fun, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. But it's also winning. When you're winning, you're having fun. When you're losing, you're not. And that goes for us in here, for the fans, for you guys, for everybody in the building, everybody that's watching on TV, for everyone. When we're winning, everyone's having fun, asking great questions. The answers are great. Everybody's smiling, and when you're losing, it's not, But again, I'm the only time I want to talk about it is when I'm asked questions. Other than that, I'm not, and I'm really not going to dig too deep into it because it's about us proving it on the field. That's what it's about. But I'm really comfortable and excited about Chris and his staff. They've done it. They've done this. Like Gene Watson's been a part of 4 World Series teams. Josh Barfield's coming from a team that's going into the playoffs. Bannister's been a part of winning organizations. In Boston and San Francisco. Chris has been here through it all. He understands it. Through the winning, through some losing, and he's been running the minor leagues, which, what I think about that. I've talked about it. If you can do that, you can basically do anything in the game. That's one of the hardest jobs ever. And I'm just excited to watch them assemble it, and then I'll get a chance to manage it.
And that is the sit-down interview with Vinnie Duber and Pedro Grifol. Herb, do you have $100?
I have it somewhere.
Okay.
It's in the bank.
That little mention of Andrew Benintendi and you bringing up, hey, why wasn't he on the IL, just made me look up the White Sox position from the 1 and 2 hole, where it ranked in Major League Baseball, the production they got out of the first and second spot in the lineup.
Very low, I would imagine.
Could you guess where they ranked out of 30 teams?
Last, probably.
Oh, you got it. 79 weighted runs created plus behind every single team in baseball.
Who was the next team? Do you know?
Can you guess?
The A's.
No.
Oh.
The A's were 4.
The Guardians.
No. The
A's were 4th in baseball?
4th worst.
Oh, 4th worst.
Guardians were 5th worst. Royals were 7th worst. So there were 7 teams with under 100 weighted runs created plus production out of the 1 and 2 hole. Kansas City was 97. Washington was 97. Cleveland 96. Oakland 88. Detroit 88.
Colorado.
Yeah. DNVRs 81, and then the Sox at 79. So, yikes. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll take away some of our big takeaways. And shout out to Vinnie Duber for getting that. Brandon says, great interview. You hit on most of the questions we've wanted to know all season. I think that was the thing that it was, great. It was casual, but also you hit what people wanted to hear. And you got more of a laid back, I would say, Pedro Grifol. We'll talk about it. Let's take a break and talk about some of our great sponsors. I don't have my Shady Rays on me, but I drove here with my Shady Rays. Take on the sun with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with this fall and El Nino winter ahead with premium polarized shades and affordable price. Shade Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. They have durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. And that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection program in all of eyewear. every pair of sunglasses backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they tell us they will send you a brand new pair. No questions asked. You can wear Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after your purchase. And if you don't love your Shady Rays, you can exchange them for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized shades. That's shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized shades. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. Also want to let you know about our friends over at Fubo. They got 140 live channels of sports, shows, movies, and news. You can stream live TV from any device and watch the most Chicago sports for the lowest price. You can watch Monday Night Football tonight as the Seattle Seahawks take on the New York Football Giants, and you can start watching immediately with a free trial. There's no contract, no cable, no hassle. Just sign up and start watching. That made me think, too. There was a Monday night game, and now there's going to be there was a Sunday night game in East Rutherford. Now there's going to be, is there 2 fields on top of each other, and they just move them out? Just repaint it?
No, I think it's turf. So they just repaint the Giants in there.
1,000 hours of cloud DVR so you can record Monday Night Football if you miss it. Maybe if you recorded any White Sox games, you can go back and watch some White Sox baseball.
Anybody out there doing a rewatch during the winter?
Maybe I'll watch that opening day game again. Pedro said we looked good in that opening series.
They did.
And then what happened? 1,000 hours of cloud DVR included at no extra charge, and you can watch local teams while traveling. Watch all your favorite college football and NFL with Fubo. Go to FuboTV.com/CHGO. That's FuboTV.com/CHGO to sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. And you can also start watching immediately with a free trial. So go check out our friends over at Fubo. Finally, we got some set decorations behind us. There's the Tim Anderson and the Southpaw bobblehead that were given to us by our friends over at FOCO. So go show them some love at FOCO.com or click the link in the description below. I think we got to go buy some Bears overalls. Maybe that's what this team needs, Put on the checkered blue and orange overalls.
Maybe the whole team could just wear them instead of or on top of their football uniform. Yeah,
and maybe they'd win a game finally.
It'd at least be interesting.
Right, it would look different.
What everyone wants to know: what would it look like if a football team played in overalls?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The age-old question.
Yeah.
Yes. Get fitted in the best sports gear around: hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between, like overalls. Over at FOCO.com. Check out FOCO.com or click the link in the description below for all non-presale items. Use the promo code CHGO for 10% off. Vinny, you sat down with the man. What was your biggest takeaway after the 35 minutes?
Well, I mean, I think there's several in there, and I think probably the thing that is going to jump out as people as being relatively newsy will be maybe the Benintendi stuff, which you guys will probably get to here in a second. But I think for me, it's the overall just kind of, and again, this is part of what, it's something that I have in my job that fans probably don't have as much of. But, hey, we heard from Pedro how this affected him as a person. And I think, fans watch this and maybe they think of these guys as characters in a show and continue treating it that way. You're more than welcome to. But we know that they're not, that they're real people doing a job. And when you hear a guy say, man, when we lost all those games early in the season, I was like mentally unwell because I cared or because it hurt me so much that we had lost those games. You go, wow, because my whole life, I've just watched a sporting event and gone, oh, well, whatever. They lose. We'll see them, or they won, whatever. I wasn't playing in it, but this is his job. This is his life. And as he said in there, too, the only thing he's ever wanted to do, the only thing he's ever going to do, he cares a lot about this. And I think, that when you hear about some of the things that were causes of him, that were effects of him caring so much about it, it's interesting. It's illuminating. It adds another layer to the person. It gives you something that you did not know maybe about him before. And it probably colors how you look at him moving forward, too. And so those kind of things I thought were very interesting. I would imagine that the more baseball-y stuff is stuff that other folks would find interesting. But, again, he stuck in that interview to the thing he's been saying for about 3-4 weeks now, which is, all right, we got to fix it, and you don't even have to worry about giving us any credit or slack or anything until you see the wins start piling up. And I think that's going to be what we're going to hear all offseason and all spring from him as well. And it seems to really be kind of a mantra for that team right now.
My biggest takeaway, and I'll let you handle the Andrew Benintendi thing because I'm sure you're chomping at the bit.
If you got anything, I think people are annoyed at me bringing it up.
No, you bring it up.
He stinks. There you go.
You bring it up. But maybe I heard it wrong. when you asked about TA and the juxtaposition of how the treatment of Oscar Colás is, he pretty much gave an answer. Tim's been in the league, had some success. Oscar hasn't. So I'm going to give Tim the benefit of the doubt and other veterans the benefit of the doubt because they've done it before. And Oscar, I'm not, because, he hasn't had a lot of time down in AAA. We had like 50 at-bats before the season, I think is what he was stating. I don't like that answer too much. I get his reasoning, giving veterans the benefit of the doubt because they've been there, done that, and not treating them as children. Fine. But also, we've seen a lot of not just bad play from Tim, lackadaisical play, lazy play, plays where he makes and regular shortstops make in regular routine plays, and he screws up. But it just kept on going. There was no reprimand publicly, and he said it. I'm not going to be doing it for you guys out there in the public, and that's fine. But Tim kept on playing every day, kept on playing, and he got breaks every once in a while. But I didn't like how you treat veterans different than you treat Oscar Colás or rookies, because people can see that. I would be the other way around if I was a manager, and I would hope my manager would be the other way around. You treat your highest player, your leader, as the guy you can go to and you can tell, hey, man, I need better effort from you. And then that filters down to everybody else, because the rookie sees man, even the biggest player in the game is getting chastised by our manager. That means I got to be on my P's and Q's. I got to mind my P's and Q's. And so I would want him to not treat these guys as if they're veterans and don't need correction. I think he should actually go to Tim and say, man, I see you're not playing right. I see you're not playing the way White Sox baseball is supposed to be played. Maybe you need a seat on the bench. And, punitive stuff I don't necessarily need 100%, but there was no accountability for how badly Tim played this year. And I get it. Tim is a veteran, and we love Tim. But I need my manager to be on board and say, I'm in charge of how you guys play. And if you guys don't play hard, I'm out of a job, as we heard. He wants this job. He needs this job. He loves this job. And if he's going to keep his job, he needs to keep the veterans minding their P's and Q's and making sure they're playing the baseball that he wants them to play. If they're not and they fall short, you got to tell them about it, and send them on the bench is the way you can get the message through if you want to.
So there's been a lot of comparisons of Matt Eberflus to Pedro Grifol because both teams have been bad and unsuccessful under those two coaches and managers. But I think you look at the Chase Claypool situation and you see a coach that is kind of acting with his head cut off, right? There was the back and forth yesterday with the media, how Chase Claypool was inactive, how the team was asking him to stay home, but Eberflus was back and forth. I don't know. He's home. I don't know. He dressed. I don't know. And the team had to come out and clarify what he meant. I think Pedro said what we've theorized has been his handling of players in that interview. I think that he probably had conversations with Tim Anderson behind the scenes, and those are their conversations, and that's not the media's conversations. Yeah. He is going to tell the media one thing, and that doesn't mean it's what's actually happening. We don't know what's behind closed doors because those doors are closed for a reason. That's what I got from Pedro Grifol, and people have called Matt Eberflus a pushover. I don't know if Pedro Grifol is a pushover. I'll say that. I think that Tim Anderson might have been talked to a couple times, and Tim Anderson didn't respond. And I think that's why there hasn't been a more clear response on what Tim Anderson's future is with this team, and why Chris Getz still needs to talk with Tim Anderson and needs to have multiple conversations with Tim Anderson, because I don't think he got the message.
And I would say that part of that, too, is the other part of this equation. It's not necessarily just should Pedro have treated TA differently in the media. It's the Colás aspect, too. And I think the reason this is a thing is because everybody's lights went off when you started hearing from a manager talking about constantly how bad this one player was playing. The way he explained it there, the way I took from it was this is because the work is still going on. The development is still going on. They didn't get the player, the product, the quote-unquote finished product that they thought they were going to get. And so they're trying to do this on the fly to try and get him up to the standard. I think what he made, the comparison he made, was that all of these other guys might be playing in a way that is unsavory to the fan base and making them frustrated, making them mad. Certainly it's not good and it's not winning games, but they're developed players, and they've gotten them the experience they've needed at the levels to then get them up. And he even threw in there a part of it about how part of Colás's development happened away from the White Sox's watch. The stuff that he was playing in Japan. So I think that the work in progress nature of that I don't want to say warranted, because it's not necessarily the way that anybody up here or anybody watching would have handled it, but in the eyes of Pedro or the White Sox, warranted reminders of, hey, this is what you need to do. And in this case, he was desiring to reveal it to the media and to the people outside, saying, here are the things that this guy needs to develop into this player. I think the players that everybody would like to hear him critique more are already there, are on a different stage of their career. They're in a different stage of their game. They've already hit the checklist aspect of it, and now it's about, consistency, cleaning up, conversations away from the cameras, that kind of thing. So there's a lot going on with this too. Obviously, Tim had the injury, the knee injury. There's a lot. This is not just a clear-cut black and white kind of thing. This is its own story with its own effects with both players and this manager and a lot of other things going on.
Well, and I guess that's the thing too, is like when people are like, oh, are you excited that the season's over? It's like, no, because now we just have to wait. I don't know what they're going to do with Tim Anderson's option. And it's like, it's their decision. Like, I don't know. Do you want them to pick it up?
Yes.
Do you want them to pick it up, or do you think they will?
I mean, I think they'd be better off picking it up. Right. Yeah.
And none of this will be taken into account.
Correct. They don't care.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They don't care. We don't know what Tim Anderson's saying. We don't know what the conversations are like. We don't have the full scope of the story, so it's tough to speculate, and it stinks. So we're just going to kind of be left in a position to react. Like, I would like to have a little bit more, I don't know, progressive talks, and it just seems like we just sitting here waiting for a Tim Anderson decision to be made. We bring up Colás and Tim Anderson, though. Shout out to Foolish Baseball. Shared this today. You can follow him on X or Twitter or whatever, at FoolishBB. 16 players Mathised in 2023, most notably Tim Anderson. Brenton Doyle, our guy, led all Mathisers with a 0.
Are you going to explain what that means?
Yeah.
Okay.
A 0.9 R-WAR. So what we know about Brenton Doyle is he's
good at defense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So a Mathis is named after Jeff Mathis. The Mathis is a season of at least 200-plus plate appearances with an OPS plus of 60 or lower. It is named after Jeff Mathis, who had 8 such seasons, the live ball era record. Jeff Mathis was on teams because he was a catcher.
Hence why he got all those plate appearances.
Right, got all those plate appearances, was very good at defense, very good at controlling a pitching rotation. He's, maybe the 2011 Corey Lee, right? That was a joke. But most notably, out of the 16 players who Mathised, Tim Anderson had the highest OPS plus at 60, so barely made the cutoff, and Oscar Colás. So both of those players we both know are bad defensively, and they were just horrendous offensively. So there's a lot of room to grow for both of those players and a rebound. I just don't know what's going to happen with the Tim decision. All right, anything else stick out to you guys? Obviously, the Benintendi stuff stuck out to me.
We could do a whole show on that, though.
Right.
A serious one that wouldn't just be a drinking game.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I guess I could share some fun stats if you want to share some fun stats, just some quick ones. Since 2018, because to give Benintendi credit, he said he hasn't really felt it since 2018. There have been, I don't know the exact amount of players. I'm sorry about that. I think 157. There have been 159. 159 players who have had 100 barrels. Okay? So 100 barrels in baseball. Who has the lowest slugging percentage on those barrels since 2018?
Is it Andrew Benintendi?
It's Andrew Benintendi. Mm-hmm. And it's actually not close. Everyone's over 2,000 except for Andrew Benintendi, 1,963. Who's next on that list?
The next worst.
Yeah, the next worst. With similar amount of barrels, like barrel percentage.
Austin
1.2. No, not Austin Hedges.
It must be someone we know.
Must be someone we know. Must be somebody that's playing for a reason. Maybe his career recently ended. Maybe Sunday was his last game.
Yasmani Grandal?
No.
Oh.
Well, do you know something about that? We didn't hear that Yasmani Grandal retired.
We did hear from Yasmani Grandal yesterday.
Is he retiring?
He just was talking kind of vaguely about it, but
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know. Who is it?
Miguel Cabrera.
Oh.
So Andrew Benintendi is just as good as 41-year-old Miguel Cabrera, which is great because,
Future Hall of Famer.
he's here for 4 years.
Pay him a couple dollars less, too.
I think, again, I thought it was just really good insight into Pedro and a first-year manager when everything goes wrong. It is what we heard from the White Sox, though, and that's what I guess is much more frustrating. Like, there was a part where he said, the injuries really got us, or there was a way he said it, and it's like, yeah, we knew that. We tried to say that the injuries were a problem. It happened last year, happened in 2021. Like, it just seemed like I don't think Pedro understood the scope of it, and he kind of talked about the outside perception and it being a little bit more magnified than what the actuality is. But, I mean, if in 2024 they have the same issue, I don't really think I can comprehend what the fan reaction will be if they have the same
the guys
season
get hurt again
with guys being hurt, TA, Andrew, whoever's on the team, etc. If they're dealing with the same amount of injuries again, the perception from fans is warranted if it happens again.
Yeah, and last thing I would say that he answered that kind of, he's like, I knew, but I didn't know until I got into the chair how hard it was and how much you take those losses and how much those injuries really cost us. And so with a year of experience, I hope he takes what he learned and improves next year and understands that the guys are going to get hurt next year too. It's going to happen again. So get your heart and your mind ready for that. And hopefully your front office has you with some protection for when those dudes do get hurt.
Anything else to add to the picture?
No,
okay.
not really.
I know you're typing up the transcript, right?
Yeah, we're going to try to put the text of that up. Obviously, if you sat here and watched the show or listened to it, you don't need to read that. You can. Give us a click. But, you just heard it. But, yeah, for anybody that is prefers to read rather than listen, that could be up on All CHGO at some point.
Yeah, or if you want to, revisit and see anything that he said specifically, and just to go through the nitty gritty. There's a lot to do in the next 4 months, so hey, take the time and read all the Pedro Grifol.
Read a new question every day. It could be like a word of a day calendar.
Hey, maybe we'll do that. That's a good show bit. All right, that's Vinnie Duber. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber. He's our CHGO White Sox beat writer. That's Herb Lawrence. You can follow him at Acknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. I'm Sean Anderson, your host, and we're gonna have a Mailbag Monday episode tomorrow. So if you are a CHGO diehard, head over to the CHGO Lounge, our Discord, and send in any questions that you do have. We answered the postseason question, but we got a lot more on deck for tomorrow. Hit that thumbs up button. We appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Thank you to Vinnie Duber for getting the exclusive interview with Pedro Grifol, and thank you to Pedro Grifol for sitting down and the White Sox media relations team for setting that up. Thank you to Kevin Wells for producing the show. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 3:30. Goodbye.